We now have Portland Nightshaders shirts and hoodies, which you can check out down in the description below. Be sure to pick one up today to support your Portland Nightshaders in this BBR season. Hey guys, John Jr. here, I'm bringing you guys another BBR video. I've never lied to you guys, so I'm not gonna lie. Starting now, week 4, our matchup is just about as bad as it can be. And I'll get into that in just a second, but we are playing OG Albino, one of my best friends in this community, one of my longest friends in this community. So if you could, go ahead and drop him a sub up in the top right hand corner. He is nearing 2,500 subs, so please help him out with that. For those of you that do not know Owen, I see Owen as my Pokemon rival. I think we've always been pretty equal in skill level. Granted, this generation he's kicked my ass, but we've always been pretty neck and neck on skill level. He's also one of the few people that I continually turn to for team building advice, and I help team build in some fashion. So this one's a big one because I actually think he's 3-0 or 2-0 on me on this generation, and I want that to stop. I want to get a win. This is going to be a tough matchup to do it in, but I got to put a stop to his terror right now. We're both 2-1, so there are some pretty big implications for this game. Going 3-1 is going to be fantastic for the playoff race. And it's going to be tough. Owen's a tough opponent. I think he's one of the better, at least you can't say worse than the top 3 battler in the league. I think he's top 3 battler in the league for sure, and we definitely have our work cut out for us. But I think we're pretty equal in skill level. I think it comes down to matchup, what I bring and what he brings. Without further ado, what is the team that kicks my ass so bad? His team is going to be Great Tusk, Iron Moth, Rotom Wash, Screentail, Fortress, Hydreigon, Talonflame, Gothitelle, Breloom, Ursaring, and Spidops. So what is bad about this matchup? Let's break down Owen's team really quickly. If you want to skip forward to the first Pokemon, be my guest. The timestamp is down in the description below, or if you hover over YouTube right now, you can go ahead and scrub to that timestamp. But I'm going to break Owen's team down because I have not been in the mindset for my other games, and I want to get in the mindset. The last team builder was like 6 minutes long, man. I want this one to be juicy. So let's break it down. Starting from the top, we got Great Tusk. Great Tusk does actually pretty bad in this matchup. If he tries to bring an offensive set, Owen's a very good builder. I don't think he ever brings an offensive set into us. Specifically, a knockoff Stealth Rock utility set does super well into us, and there's actually not much that we can do against that Pokemon. Slowbro's a great check, but he can rock on us and then switch out, or he can knock off our Shed Shell and then just go into Gothitelle and we're boned. On top of that, we don't have the best ground resist. So Great Tusk, while I don't think it will get out of hand, it definitely, I guess, could if Slowbro gets chipped. Great Tusk is going to be a really good utility amount and really tough for us to deal with overall in this matchup. And then we get to this guy. I almost said something else, but I don't know if I can anymore because I'm close to being monetized. Don't want to be unmonetized if I get to that point. Iron Moth. This Pokemon tears me apart piece by piece, limb by limb, and does not care about it. He's Terra Fire and Terra Water. He just goes Terra Water in this matchup. There's no real second thought about that. And then he's going to be Energy Ball, Terra Blast, and Fiery Dance, probably with Agility, Booster Energy. He could also throw Sludge Wave on there. So there's 5 moves that I really do think that he could be, but I think that combination of 5 moves is making its way somehow, and I think he's 100% at least Agility. The problem with this Pokemon is our specially defensive wall is Dondozo, and Dondozo has like base 50 special defense. Our other special bulky water is going to be Slowbro, who is not the specially defensive water. Who would have guessed? So we don't have a lot of counterplay to Iron Moth. He could also be Psychic, by the way. If he's not Terra Water for whatever reason, he could be Psychic. There's just too many situations where this Pokemon Terra Waters, gets an Agility off, gets the Booster Energy off, and wins the game. It's just a one-turn thing. He gets anything chipped, and we're in range, and then he just does that. So we have to play around that. Other notable mons on his team that I'm going to be talking about, Rotom Wash. I'm not going to say too much about it, but we don't have great Rotom Wash resists on our team. He's pretty free to Volt Switch because our ground type is Sandaconda. And then Hydreigon does it super dirty. Our Dachsbun is not going to want to take any hits from that Pokemon, really, unless we bring an AV variant. Our Dark Resists are a little bit lackluster. We do have Wu-Chi-In, but Wu-Chi-In does not want to get U-turned on. And then the last one that I really want to touch on is going to be Gothitelle. I do think Gothitelle comes. I think it's a really weird matchup. I think Gothitelle, at first glance, does really bad. But once you look at it and you look at the rest of my Pokemon, at the very least, it forces prep. It forces Shed Shells. It forces on Dondozo and Slowbro, it forces Shed Shells on those defensive pivots. But upon further look, it can trap my defensive pieces that don't want to run Shed Shell, or that can get through Shed Shell knocked by the Great Tusk. And then once it traps those Pokemon, my team gets picked apart. Like, it could trap my check to Iron Moth and the game's over. Like, I don't do anything. I lose to Iron Moth immediately if he traps my check to Iron Moth. So what do I do about that? That's what this team build is going to be about. We're going to dive into that now. If you did listen to that, thank you so much. And before we get into the actual team, real quick shout out to Star, my buddy Eddie, Star. I couldn't have built this team without him, genuinely. I was so unbelievably stuck on this matchup. I've had bad matchups before, and I always get stuck, and I usually get resolved by getting some outside eyes to look at the matchup in some fashion. But Star really dove in, and like we threw stuff back and forth for like an hour to try to figure out this team. Took a lot of arguing to get where we got, but we ended up getting here. And I'm actually confident in the team now. A little bit. I don't know. It's still not a good matchup. But our first Pokemon, no different to any other week, is going to be Chien-Pao. We are Tera Fairy. We are making good use of that Tera this week. We have Tera Blast, Ice Shard, Crunch, and Sucker Punch. Tera Blast plus Crunch does a lot of damage to most of his team. Ice Shard priority is fantastic for something like the Great Tusk in the back. And then Sucker Punch is really niche, really only there if he's not an Agility Iamoth for whatever reason. And other than that, there's not really any situations I can see Sucker Punch being too useful. I think Ice Shard is pretty much always useful. There wasn't a really great fourth move. We really didn't need another one. The options were Taunt, this, or Ruination, and I think Sucker Punch, the niche on the Iamoth, I don't want to be in a position where there's no chance I ever win that. I want to at least have the 50-50. So I felt more comfortable going with this rather than Ruination, because the things I would like to Ruination on, like the Rotom or the Fortress, even the Screamtail, are going to get chipped as the game goes on. And Taunt was another option. I really debated that for the Rotom Wash, because Rotom Wash can potentially Will-O-Wisp me or Thunder Wave me, but I ultimately decided I valued Sucker Punch a little bit more. For our EVs, we are 196 attack, 128 speed def, and 184 speed Jolly. One thing you're going to notice about Owen's team, his threats that threaten us are special. He has Gothitelle, Hydreigon, Rotom Wash, and Ironmoth. All of those are special. Obviously, Great Tusk is still a big threat, but we have some checks to that Pokemon. And I'm comfortable running just full special defense on most of our Pokemon to mitigate his team. We can outspeed the potential Screamtail. I don't think he's going to be max speed Screamtail, but we're already going to outspeed Ironmoth, so we might as well go for it. And then this one will give away a little bit of the team, but our Chien-Pao, once Tera Fairy, can live a Booster Energy Sludge Wave from the Ironmoth through a light screen. So it's a very niche scenario. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then we went the rest into attack, and this is going to be a breaker. Obviously, his 4 attacks, he's not a win con, he's going to be a breaker. We're not going to try to use him super early. Getting that fairy off would be super nice, but Chien-Pao does a really good job of breaking things, and once something like the Fortress is down, this Pokemon can actually just win the game. Our next Pokemon, this one is weird. We had to get weird. We had to get a little funky for this team. We're going to be Slowbro. Everybody's favorite Pokemon. We're going to be Cobra Berry, but I'll just get that one out of the way. We're Oblivious. We're not Regenerator, which is weird. I've never ran this. I've never even looked at Oblivious as an option. Star came up with this one, and I gotta say, it's golden. I love it. So the situation I mentioned earlier, this is a Great Tusk check, obviously. This is one of the best, I wouldn't say best, better Great Tusk checks in the game. But obviously he just knocks me off, right? Like, he's just going to knock me off every single time. And my first instinct is to run Shed Shell, because whose first instinct isn't to run Shed Shell into the Goth matchup? However, what does Goth do? Goth traps us. He knocks off our potential Shed Shell, and then he traps us. So instead, I'm Colbur Berry, so when he knocks us off, he does less damage, and then obviously he's going to want to go into the Gothitelle to trap us, at least at some point, maybe not initially, but at some point he's going to want to trap us. We are Oblivious because he cannot taunt us, and we're Calm-Minded. We can set up in his face and eventually potentially beat him in a one-on-one situation with Psyshock. We also have Ice Beam specifically just to hit the Hydreigon. I debated on Focus Blast, but I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. It allowed us to hit the Fortress, but I don't think we're going to lose to a Fortress. It doesn't get toxic this gen. And this Slowbro, it can do really well. It can put in work if he doesn't expect it. If he doesn't bring Goth, this Slowbro blows. But I am putting all my eggs in the basket that I think Goth does really, really well here. With 248 HP, 140 defense with a bold nature, and then we have 120 speed def. This allows us to take 2 headlong rushes from a max Adamant Tusk after Rocks. I think it was Adamant. Might have not been Adamant. Actually, no, it was not Adamant because he cannot run Adamant in this matchup. That's correct. And then we went the rest into special defense. And this Pokemon, like I said, it could potentially be a win con, but it's mainly here for the Great Tusk. If we see the opportunity on the Gothitelle, obviously we're going to take it. We kind of want to conceal the fact that we're not Regenerated, so maybe if he knocks us off, we're just going to throw off a Slack Off. That way we're at full HP as he switches something in. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I have to play it really weird, but I think it could do potentially really well. Our next Pokemon, everybody grab hands. I need everybody to like be prepared for this mentally, physically, everything. Sit down, go make a tea, something. Like, just get ready for this one. We're Glimmora. But we're Weakness Policy Rock Polish, and I've seen Rock Polish before. I've never seen Weakness Policy before. This was another star idea. We have no win cons. No win cons in this game, no good win cons. The best one is Quaquaval, but Quaquaval doesn't win the game. There's a lot of good Pokemon like Screamtail and Fortress that stop Quaquaval from winning the game. So we went with this as our win con, and I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll see. We're Rock Polish, Power Gem, Sludge Wave, and Energy Ball. We also bounce back and forth on Dazzling Gleam instead of Energy Ball, but I think ultimately Energy Ball is going to be better because it can kill a potential Tera Ironmoth, especially once we're +2. Power Gem at +2 destroys everything. Sludge Wave gives us some sort of leverage against the Screamtail, so it cannot Encore us. And we're Weakness Policy because we can proc the hell out of this Weakness Policy. Everything hits us for super effective damage, and initially, that is why I did not want to bring this as a win con, but our next Pokemon is going to really help with that. I'll get to that in just a second. But there's a lot of things that will proc our weakness policy. There's Iron Moth, who has Terra Blast, obviously Terra Blast Water, or potentially Sidekick. Rotomosh with Hydro Pump, Hydreigon with potentially Earth Power, Gothitelle with Sidekick. 4 of the main 5 Pokemon that I think he's going to bring can proc our weakness policy as we get a Rock Polish off. And I'm so confident, I'm so damn confident that Owen is bringing Agility Booster Modest or Booster Special Attack on his Iron Moth. We do not even outspeed if he's Booster Speed, which could bite us really, really badly. But we can outspeed a Scarf Hydreigon at +2 because I think Scarf Hydra is very, very, very likely. And then we can live a Hydreigon Earth Power through a Light Screen. We'll get to it in just a second. And the rest in Special Attack Modest. This is the win con. This is how we win the game and the only way we win this game. Next up, how are we going to facilitate, how are we going to drive this ship to win this game? It is going to be through Gholdengo, Golden Boy. We are Light Clay, Light Screen, Reflect, Shadow Ball, and Thunder Wave. The Pokemon that switch into us are probably going to be Rotom and Hydreigon. If he switches into Hydreigon, we're going to get a Thunder Wave off and we're going to cripple him and he's going to be Scarf, and that's going to be fantastic. But this Pokemon's main purpose, obviously, is to set up the screens for a potential end-game Glimmora sweep. Depending on the Pokemon he brings, we're always going to value Light Screen more, like 9 out of 10 times, we're always going to value Light Screen more to potentially get the Rock Polish off with Glimmora. His team does not resist Shadow Ball really besides the Hydreigon, so we are going to bring that Shadow Ball. And we're Light Clay, so we have as much opportunity as we can to set up with this Glimmora. We are 168 HP, 24 defense, 64 special attack Modest, 252 special defense. We can live a Booster Iron Moth, Fiery Dance, or 2 behind screens. We live a Banded Great Tusk Headlong Rush, and then we went the rest into Special Attack Modest. This Pokemon is super important. We got to get our screens up, get into this game, and get Glimmora going. And Gholdengo is supposed to be the facilitator here. He has to dish an assist out to Glimmora for us to win this game. Our next 2 Pokemon, we're going to have a Breaker next. We're going to have Kilowattrel, Roost Hurricane, Dual Wing Beat, and Volt Switch. Dual Wing Beat is because that 6th slot is kind of iffy. We don't really need a 4th move. I think it could be Breloom, and if it is likely Sash. Don't want to get spored on something. Dual Wing Beat KOs him through Sash, obviously, and it hits twice, and that Pokemon's going to get sent packing. Hurricane is super unresisted on his team. Volt Switch for fantastic momentum because his ground type is Great Tusk, does not want to switch into us. And then we have 144 speed, Timid, 112 defense, and 252 attack. Not sure why I read that backwards. We can outspeed that potential Screamtail on his team, max special attack, and then rest into special defense. This Pokemon is probably going to be our guaranteed lead depending on the 6 that we see. And if he does lead Rotom, we're going to be in a little bit of a sticky spot, but we at least get a little bit of a read on his set. And then lastly, the only way we don't lose to Iron Moth is going to be Dondozo. We are going to be Assault Vest and not Shed Shell, and that is very scary. We are Liquidation, Body Press, Heavy Slam, and Body Slam. Body Slam to potentially get a para on the Goth that comes in and wants to trap us, and Body Slam plus Liquidation, depending on RNG, maybe we can beat it. It gives us a fighting chance. Heavy Slam is there just for the Screamtail because it does massive, massive damage, and then Body Press is going to be there for the Hydreigon. This is a soft check to the Hydra, there's a good check to the Iron Moth. I'm not sure what else to say about this Pokemon. We are not in the best situation for Iron Moth, and it's a little bit scary that we have to bring this version of Dondozo, especially when there's a Gothitelle, to kind of mitigate that. We are just simply max special defense. He is not taking hits from anything else. If he does take a hit from Great Tusk, we beat it 1v1 anyway, probably assuming we're not chipped. And that is going to be the team versus Owen. Win con Glimmora, we have to get screens up, we have to get into this position to win with Glimmora. There are a couple things that we will need chip, just in case we aren't able to proc that weakness policy. But if we get that weakness policy off, I really like our chances to win this game with Glimmora. Kind of, it's still going to be tough, man. Owen's a great battler, and I might not be ready for what he brings. So we're bringing some crazy stuff, maybe he's also bringing some crazy stuff. I'm really hoping we're able to catch him off guard though and snag this win. We need this win. But I'm nervous, but I'm ready. Again, big shout out to Star for helping me build this team. It would not have been possible without him. And big shout out akin to Owen. Be sure to check him out down in the description below or in the beginning of the video. And I'm going to go ahead and get into this battle, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.